Hello, everyone, and welcome back for week two, our Wednesday, actually, I should say Thursday discovery. You can tell my brain's not working right now. And today we're going to be talking about prototyping immersive game design as interactive fiction. And we also have a special guest here, Ross. So go ahead and wave to the screen. There you go. As always, we have Kay. She slowly waves. And we have Sherry. And I am Chris. So, further ado, we'll go ahead and turn this over to Sherry and Ross, and we'll get started with the slides.
Thank you very much, Chris. Okay, so again, this is prototyping immersive game design as interactive fiction. This is a special presentation for our week two. And just so as a heads up, we will have another presentation on Sunday discussing some of the assigned reading this week. Okay, so I'm gonna by the way, so Chris was complaining earlier about that game over image. These two images are supposed to represent interactive fiction. But I figured that the game over grabbed your attention, you know, with the choices. That's why I chose them.
Well, see, I just thought you wanted me to throw this like game over and say thank you all for watching.
Yeah, that would be the quickest. Yeah. No, we're going to continue. So please go next. Okay. Briefly, I just want to, again, we do have our special guest, Ross Moreno. And Ross is a designer with Fourth Axis Games. It's an independent game studio. And particularly why we invited Ross is that he was originally in my class, and he has applied some psychological principles to the design of his game, which is really exciting. So we're going to go ahead and go into the slides. So I'm going to talk briefly, and I will go in depth on Sunday about these ideas. The three ideas here: narrative design, interactive fiction, and immersion. So please go next. So narrative design. I have explained this in this week's page, but again, it is a discipline for creating architecture or mental model of a game world through the written text. So a narrative designer primarily is typing a lot of text to kind of construct a fictional world that doesn't exist yet. So they do have a very big role to play. And this particular role, this function called narrative designer, didn't really come into play. And if you were searching for jobs, that didn't really show up on the radar until Henry Jenkins, who is a famous media scholar, claimed that game design is really about creating narrative architecture. So he was not paying into the big debate about game versus story, because there's always been this weird misunderstanding that game and story are opposites. When he said, really, if you understand that a game is a narrative architecture, then there wouldn't be this discussion. Now, I want to remind everyone very quickly, too, that narrative and story are not the same thing. First of all, a narrative refers to the structure in which content will go into it. Story actually refers to the content, which refers to the objects and the events that will occur within the narrative. So narrative and story are just flip side of the coin. Narrative is a structure, story is the content. Okay? And that's what he means by narrative architecture. So we can go next. Okay. Now quickly, let's discuss what interactive fiction is. In our previous spring 2015 semester or session, we have actually discussed what interactive fiction is. It's actually a literary genre that's been around since 1975, and in the software industry, it refers to computer games that offers players the ability to interact with the game narrative via text commands. So in recent games, if you have played such titles as The Walking Dead or Life is Strange, those particular games actually have incorporated the if genre within it. So that means the decision that you make throughout the game affect the consequence, affect how the game will flow. Narrative is quite important in those particular titles. Okay, so we can go next. Okay, so there is a debate as well as to whether or not interactive fiction is actually a game or a story. The reason why originally we associated if with a game was because when it first appeared in 1975, the game was called A Colossal Cave or The Adventure Game. by William Crowther. In that particular text, he called it a game. So people started to associate the interactive narrative as some kind of game. And Nick Mumford argues that it's really not a story nor a game, but it actually is a combination of parser commands and instruction about events in the world. And it's really just about simulating a story world using text. Okay, so that I'll leave that to you guys to think about, whether it's actually a game or a story. So next. Okay, so now, why are we talking about ifs? Why are we talking about narrative design? Now, there is a suggestion that, and I'm going to propose is that if design can actually enhance immersion, and I'm going to go bring it all the way back to Jamie Madigan. Jamie Madigan is the author of Psychology of Games, and this is what he said in 2010. He says that characteristics of games that facilitate immersion can be grouped into two general categories. So the idea in the game industry, the word immersion means that the player gets the illusion that they're within the game, that they're inside the story world. Momentarily, they forget about reality, and momentarily they feel like they're inside that game. Okay, so he differentiates the two general groups. First is the one that can create a rich mental model of the game environment. And the second is it creates a consistency between the things in that environment. And then he breaks it down further to explain how immersion works through a psychological perspective. So one, you have multiple channels of sensory information. So it refers to our senses, how we access the world through visual, through sound, through touch, and so forth. The completeness of sensory information. That means if you're looking at an object, and let's say in a game, and I particularly like games like this, where there is a cup on the table, and I as a player can pick up the cup, turn it around, look inside the cup, look under the cup, to really understand exactly what the cup is. It feels as if I'm touching a real object at that point. That's what he means by completeness of sensory information. Third is cognitively demanding environments. That means you have to mentally try to construct in your head where all the components are in the world, because it'll be very hard for you to finish the game if you don't realize where things are in relation to each other in this game. And lastly, very importantly, is a strong and interesting narrative, plot, or story. So again, narrative, we are referring to the structure of the game, how the game flows in terms of the organization of the storyline. So I'm going to go next. So here's this big idea I'm going to leave with you guys, okay? As I am repeating myself a bit, creating an if work as an initial prototype prior to creating a full-scale game is very beneficial for game designers. That is because when you are creating an if game, you are challenged, you are mentally challenged to think about how big the story world has to be, who are the existence of that story world. So existence refers to objects, people, things, whatever that's going to be inside it. And the logic of how the player will interact with the existence in the story world. That means if the mountain is to the north of me, okay, and the castle is to the east, what is the shortest route for me to go through the mountain? Am I supposed to go through the mountain to get to the castle? Is there a shortcut between the two? Designers have to think about those problems, okay? That's what we mean by logic in terms of navigation, in terms of what thing is related to what. For example, that guy is the uncle of the other guy, right? Those are logical relationship. Now, if also when you create a prototype like this, you can share it with players and get gameplay feedback and narrative design feedback. So it's very good for someone who's trying to learn how to do game design.
And of course, when you were talking about the mountains and the castle, immediately my thoughts went back to Zork. And I'm like, yes, west, 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 west. No, you can't go west anymore.
There's too many west there, Chris. West, west, west. Yeah, you're doing a full circle later.
There you go.
Okay.
Left, 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 left.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing. Yeah, so there needs to be a logic there, right? So if we can go next. Okay, so I'm going to turn it back over to you now, Chris. It's your turn.
All right. So, Ross, we have a little slide for you. I guess, do you want me to read it or would you like to read it?
Uh, I suppose it doesn't. I guess I'll let you read it so I can
There you
feel
go.
very.
Okay. So that's fine. So Ross is the lead writer for Fourth Axis Games, and as we were talking a little bit before the presentation started, of course, there's always more hats you wear, especially in a smaller studio. So the games they've made so far is Children of the book, and City of Lost Rain. He's a student of Sherry's in the Strategies and Psychology in Games class at the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design, and has incorporated psychological theories into game design. So the first question we have for you is, since you're a part of an indie game studio, Fourth Axis Games, can you tell us about what your role is in the studio?
Well, that's like Sherry was saying earlier. I have a whole slew of things that I'm doing, but the official title is lead writer, though. Like the rest of the team, it covers so much more. Like we've done like all of us do animation, programming, level design, modeling, rigging, textures, illustrations. Oh boy, that's a long list.
No, that's okay. And this is Kay, and the reason why is because track one, Sherry's giving us basically a graduate seminar. Well, the lighter track two, we're reading a book called You by Austin Grossman, and in this book, the character just got hired at a small game studio, and as the story's unfolding, everyone has to explain to him what they do, and what gets explained is people do a lot of different things.
Yeah. Oh, so it's so necessary because there's just so much work to be done in every area. Just one person can't be so specialized. But yeah, versatility comes really handy on an indie studio. But yeah, that's my role. Everything. Well, like all of us are everything.
Yeah. Yes, we all have catch-all in our titles. That, or in your job description, it falls under the other duties as assigned.
Yeah.
So our next question is, can you tell us about your studio's current project? What was the inspiration behind the game?
The Children of Boom is a first-person shooter RPG real-time strategy game, and we're making it for VR, which is a whole slew of design issues and new ground to be made there. Like UI is so different with VR, but it follows the path of our main character Rogue, who's a wielder from Capel. And wielders are kind of like mages mixed with earthbenders.
Mm-hmm.
They can manifest things. I speak with my hands, and this is not as.
No, and it's totally fine because this is a group that knows what color mana is and what color health is. So you are talking to a group that gets what mana is and a mage. So those are vocabulary words that we have. So totally feel free to talk like that.
Okay, cool.
And now, could I ask like a backup question on that? What I want to ask you is about the VR. To let you know, a number of us educators just recently came back from a conference where we got to introduce Google Cardboard to a whole bunch of teachers and educators and administrators. So what part of this do you think that VR will help? How do you see that lending extra immersion for it?
Oh, so do you mean extra immersion to the game, or oh, you mean to Children of Boom?
Yeah.
Oh, just if you haven't had a VR experience, it's somewhat like breathtaking. Like the first time I put on an Oculus, even though it was little kind of bits, you could see everything. It was like those games are going to change forever. Like you're in the world, it just facilitates. It slickens your imagination, if that makes any sense.
No, it does, because it surprised us. A bunch of administrators putting on just Google Cardboard and the Samsung VR, and how immersed they went, and they immersed really quickly. I did not expect that.
Oh yeah, it's I can't wait for the like hand controllers or the kind of the
The
Wii
haptic,
thing.
yeah.
Oh man, those are gonna be so. I want to get my hands on them so I can start programming for them. But
we understand, because we were looking. Someone did bring like one haptic thing, I think, to the conference, and we were thrilled with it.
oh yeah, I can't wait to reach out and grab things and just. But
Yeah. And the other thing we saw at that conference was they also brought a Samsung prototype that they had for their VR, which is basically built around the Samsung phones, and they actually had a little trackpad on the side, so you could actually hit the up down arrow and actually could tap it to interact with the game as well. So it was more than just a Google Cardboard, and it was more of just sort of a goggle headset you put on, and you just put your phone across the front visor, and then you're able to go ahead and interact. So it's kind of interesting where it's going.
yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know about that. But well, should I get back to the Children of Boom or?
Yes.
Okay.
No, no, we brought you here to talk about VR, virtual reality. Surprise! No.
Oh, I'm used to it. VR definitely takes the spotlight for a lot of things. It's it's really cool. I love VR. I can't wait till it's everywhere. Like I really wish I could play Fallout 4. But a lot of the inspiration behind the game, the behind the lore and the narrative is emotions and their effect on the world and the people. In the game, emotions are personified. Like I have characters like pride and guilt who help the main character throughout their adventure. Was that a question? No.
No, it was me going, mm-hmm.
Oh,
So,
okay. But they're like what's called remnants, and they're like see the people in this world can actually detach emotions from their head, forever losing that, but they create a being called a remnant, which is a, a being wholly consumed by that emotion. My favorite is definitely Pride so far. He's just a jerk, and I love him.
No, it sounds really cool. I was looking at some of the artwork, some of the different sketching and artwork you had on your website. So it was really interesting to see that piece. And what's interesting is that a lot of us play World of Warcraft, and the last expansion of World of Warcraft was Pandaria, and their environment behaved similarly. Whatever emotion you brought to it. So if you brought war, then that the basically the land amplified it, the
Oh,
land
that's
of
awesome.
Pandaria. So it's kind of interesting to see that piece of it. Whenever what you guys are doing is obviously totally different, but it's interesting that it's just two different ways to look at how you can implement emotion. Whether you have one group which has detached themselves completely from it, and then in World of Warcraft you actually had the land itself, basically amplified and reacted
That's
to
cool.
whatever emotion you brought.
Huh. I so that's from the Pandora.
Yes, the Mist of Pandaria. Yep.
I'll have to check that out because there's a place actually called the Empty, which
Mm.
is shifting or shifting crystalline sand desert, and uh, it's very kind of mysterious because it's kind of the similar idea. It responds to your ideas and your emotions. It's also how we're kind of wanting to plan to put in maybe some multiplayer because you can encounter other versions of
Wow.
yourself in
Yep.
this desert, which would be other players.
Oh, very cool.
But
That's two prides going at it.
yeah, well, it's gonna be a fun game. Fallout 4 definitely did some stuff that we were planning, but All you have to look at when you do that is, all right, how can we improve on what they did and make it,
Mhm.
change it. I see game design as evolution, building off each other, and we're all in this together.
And I do want to say that there's been some writing about it was actually Tolkien who talked about you know making a world, and that it would be sub-creation studies, and what he did with the Lord of the Rings. But the other thing I was
Oh
going to
yeah.
say, because again since we're reading this book about a game studio, in this book the main character has to go do a presentation at E3. And so we've been reading that, and we've been pulling up some of the YouTube videos on who won E3 and stuff like that. And it's funny, some of the ones that we have been watching, Fallout didn't get the shout out. And the reason why they were saying was because it was expected. Everyone expected it to be, say, that good, and that it wasn't a surprise, and people were really looking for the surprise.
Huh. So the key is to keep them guessing. Is it going to be good?
Yeah, I think so, because like I said in the book, and it's one of our discussion questions for the other track, would be like, how would you present at E3? Like 5 minutes of a game of your favorite gameplay. And so we just started watching all the reviews of E3 while we were doing it, and it's interesting that you said that your game will do certain things that Fallout did, but you'll do it better, because what we're reading is like how that's the competition, and you have to be better and bigger, or do something more spectacular to win E3.
I guess I like to think of I like to think we're all in this together in game design. I know it's not, but I like to think that building off other ideas is kind of like and I don't want to say we're going to do it necessarily better, but we want to make it different, utilize what they did well, and we'll see what happens. See what happens. The settlement building was definitely a very cool aspect, but it could be taken farther.
Okay. We'll let you get back to your question.
Oh yeah.
I want to add too, though, Russ. I was just going to add too, though, that you exemplify indie game developer spirit. By the way, the whole sharing and the innovation. But I'll stop. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, this image right here is I created this language called for the Everlit, and that's this language going through here is theirs, and it's a very organic language. I like to think of. I want to be the Tolkien of video games. It would just be wonderful.
Yeah.
But the language of the Everlit is like it splits down into root structures of so you'll have say you had a story, you'll have one main sentence, and then the rest split off into root structures of tertiary details, and I love that language. It was a pretty fun one to make, inspired by beads, and because they're a fungus race, the race that it's for, so they're very organic in how they write.
And I do have to say that the way you're talking is exactly how our educators want our students to be talking. We want them to be excited. We want them to be creative. We want them to look at English and decide, no, I'm going to make a language that is different. Yeah,
oh, for sure.
Follow the rules. And no, that's exactly what we're looking for our students to be able to do.
I'm sure it's a lot of fun, and I love making games. So I love making worlds. It's a lot of fun. I don't know. Yeah.
No, it definitely is. I mean, and I think that you're seeing a lot of it. I mean, a lot of our friends are K-12 teachers or educational support for K-12, and they're finding the same thing in Minecraft, where kids are they're spending the majority of their time in the building phase, where they're building everything in Minecraft. So you're seeing a whole new generation is getting used to building in a 3D environment. Granted, it's 8-bit, but the thing is they can still build, and they're
Yeah.
graduating onto different platforms that allow you to go into that sandbox genre type of game set where you can go ahead and spend most of your time creating new pieces. So definitely, we can definitely relate to that. So tell us a little bit more about this image.
Okay, so we're kind of going with the first person, hands out in front. Eventually, we want to hook those to those thingies, but the hand thingies that would come with the, you know what I'm talking about. But and what's interesting about, yeah, that's right,
and I will tell you that yeah, go ahead and talk about Sherry said Bioshock influence, but to let you know, over the summer, our book club read Ready Player One. And in the book Ready Player One, the way that everyone in that book relates is putting on the goggles and the haptic gloves. And then there's even haptic suits. So we spent about 5 weeks reading about characters doing that. So yes, feel free to get into whatever details you want about that.
See, we're kind of debating whether, during sort of cutscene moments, we kind of want to get away from just because it's the Oculus 2, we can't do the quick cuts that normal cinematics do. But I feel I loved Bioshock, but I still feel like just having the hands, even if they did a really good job, but I still feel distant from the main character. And that's an interesting thing. If you're playing the main character from the first person's perspective, you think that would be the most you're in them, but it's I guess once you separate from them, it's a little bit more, they become real.
I mean that's going to be a really interesting thing for us to be talking about and debating in the future when more people do get the haptic gloves, and these are because if anybody remembers a movie called Being John Malkovich.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think there was that kind of detachment, too. And I think it's really good. The immersion. I mean, I know what does it for me when it comes to immersion. It's the surprise, it's the shock, it's when I get vertigo, it's when things like that happen. And I'm just wondering with the Oculus Rift, or any other kind of VR, how quickly people are going to be able to immerse. And it's interesting that you're saying that.
I think that people who aren't as familiar with games will actually adapt faster to the Oculus, because when I was noticing when gamers played our game with the Oculus, they just held their head forward and just, but people who didn't play as many were looking around. They weren't as used to being and that was interesting.
Yeah, actually, we saw that too. We gave out 83 pairs of Google Cardboard. Plus, we did those demonstrations last week, and we saw that with the Samsungs, that the people who are gamers, you put them on, they go, oh, this is good. The people who weren't gamers, we just have pictures of them with their mouths open and their heads all around and stuff like that. So I'm agreeing with you that I think that there might be something about gamers that we might not end up immersing as quickly, or that we're used to it or something. It's going to be an interesting time.
So used to a stable screen that it's... Yeah.
I do have a question for Ross, though. Since you're looking right now, this perspective, we call that the first-person perspective, right? So you're looking through the eyes of the character. What you're really suggesting, perhaps, are you trying to do a third-person perspective where you're shining? I mean, the other way is to, if you want to see the full body, one way is to actually highlight the back of the character, right? And the other way, recently I just played a game called The Park. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Horror game, just came out on Steam, and now I just saw the news that it's going to be on PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. So it's just coming out. And you know what they did? they still do the same that you're doing here, okay, with the hands. But what I noticed is that I could look down on the character so I can see her feet.
Oh yeah, we want to do that. I'm so excited to do that. When you look down and see your own feet walking, that's gonna sell it. But what we actually want to do, so you'll be first person's perspective most of the time, but when you go into a cinematic, you actually be able to walk out of Robe's body, so you can look around the scene. Like, I'm curious to know too if like people will edit their own cinematics for that part by like positioning themselves in a weird, like that would be cool to see people edit our animatics or our cinematics. Would be awesome, but we'll see.
Sounds cool.
But inspiration.
So next one is this image right here.
This is an image of a concept piece for Guilt's Realm. See, each remnant has their own like kind of prison in this like kind of thought prison where they're stuck in this their existence made by their mind. Like Pride is perpetually working on artwork that'll never be seen because it's not real, and that's just like torment for him. This is Guilt's Realm, where it's like a sewage sea filled with bodies of the, because Guilt was actually taken from the villain, so it's all the villain's victims are populating this sea, and you have to like kind of row your way to this island to talk to her. I think I like to think that it'll be awesome anyway.
No. I'm really enjoying this, and I will tell you there is a difference when someone is telling me about a game because I know I can potentially play it, versus when someone is telling me about a movie or even a book. If somebody's, I'll go, oh, I love books, I'll enjoy that, I will read it. But when somebody tells me a game, I can start thinking about what would I do when I was there, when I'm there. And I mean, so Sherry, when you're talking about immersion, I mean, for me, even listening to, say, game advertisements is more immersive for me than movie advertisements are not even advertisements, but having discussions with people.
Right, and going back to Madigan's point, which I very much like, but there is an argument right now against talking about immersion and game design. That's a whole other thing for Sunday. But
okay.
He is really trying to say, I think how immersion actually works is when your mind has the mental model of the story world. Mm-hmm. So story world could very much be when you're reading a book, okay, or looking at an advertisement. But if you can have a mental construct of what that world looks like, I think that's how you get pulled into immersion. And obviously the sensory details help draw you in.
Well, Well, Sherry, I know I'm just throwing this out here, but we've done readings of IF.
Yeah.
For people, and we've like over Hangout and stuff, and we've been surprised that people are getting that. Our audience or the other Hangout members are getting that involved in it. And
well,
what do you think about the immersion there?
Ross knows this, and he can totally jump in. We had a discussion on low fidelity versus high fidelity.
Okay.
So yeah, I know. I know. Your stuff is high fidelity. Let's get that straight. The stuff that we're seeing right now, very impressive, is high fidelity. But some designers have been arguing that low fidelity games, which is the quality of graphic might be low in that it's more abstract. I don't want to say low, but for example, Mario Brothers, you're not going to say it's graphically low, but it's more abstract in that it doesn't look as much as reality. Some argue that low fidelity games are better for immersion than high fidelity games because high fidelity games does not allow you to imagine. So some argue that interactive fiction games, the way it works is, well, forget the graphics. There's no graphics. I mean, some could, Some, if you know, they put some graphics in there, but without graphic, we're completely relying on our imagination. And many of them argue, you know, the good old days in the 70s and 80s when we were playing these kind of games. Oh man, we were more immersed than VR. So that's a controversy.
I was going to say, I mean, how many mod and mud users did you have? Did they interview for their?
Yeah, right.
Because that's the other thing is in the book we're reading in EU by Austin Grossman, they're talking about one of the games they started out with was the wonderful their first game they developed in their school was you had to avoid the deadly ampersands. And so, that was so they talked about how they imagined what they actually were versus what the representation on the screen was. And so the author does a really good job of bringing that imaginary piece back into the storyline and saying, it goes back from, the little, okay, here's the little miniature tile, and they saw it as there's a little tile of a tree, and that represented a forest. So different things like that. So that's one of the things that you were reading in the book there about definitely hitting that piece where the games are very much abstractions, because the breadth of games in this book go all the way from the very first go ahead, code it in COBOL, and your walls are plus signs, and your character's a little asterisk you're moving around, and then basically all the way up through immersive environments and 3D environments, and going into those pieces. So it's a big broad breadth of games that the author talks about.
I guess what I think about. Sorry, I might have stepped in too early, but
No, that's fine.
The thing, I think simpler games can. I think it's just how you apply it, because the ambiguity, I really messed in City of Lost Rain. I messed with the ambiguity of you, because I'd say the biggest mystery in the game is what you are, and that's what's cool about IF is you can limit that information as much as you want to just titillate without giving it away, which is not as easy to do when you have visual to worry about. But then I love making the world the whole thing too. So I don't know. I don't visually. I guess it depends too on how much they want to work their imagination.
I made an educational game for the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And what we ended up when we had the students had to write essays after they had gone through it, and it was only a 15-minute thing, but we absolutely loved doing it. And yes, we had to create the world. We loved creating the world and doing the characters and audio and everything. But the students had to write an essay about it, and the essay, Sherry can get into this more, but Atman is Brahman, Brahman is Atman, that kind of topic, and we got much more description than we actually put in the game. We had students writing in the essays about just because there's wrathful deities in there, and then there's the Lord of Death who judges you at the end. Anyway, so they put much more detail into what the Lord of Death's minions and the wrathful deities were. They put much more details, and I heard their whips and the sounds of, and they went into much more detail than we put in there. We did not have the audio in there that they were writing about. And so we found that really interesting. The peaceful deities, nobody really put anything into the peaceful deities, added anything extra. But the wrathful deities caught their imagination and really and I mean, it wasn't like they got anything wrong by putting in more detail. But yeah, we ended up with essays with descriptions of audio and more action than was actually in the game. And here's the thing about it: we were in the game with them, so we know what happened. So it's not like it's not like some bug came out or something like that.
Huh. So that's a cool. So just leaving enough information for them to branch out in their imagination is the key.
Maybe, and I will tell you, it was students who were going into nursing and medical fields, so we wanted them exposed to other ideas of death. So they all had very Western backgrounds. So that part of it could have been playing into it. You know, they could have been putting maybe some ideas they had about hell, and they might have been adding some things to it.
So they're bringing
Yeah, like I said, we loved it. We loved doing it. It was great.
I'll have to thank you. That sounds interesting. Like, I want to research that a little bit. It's kind of a cool idea to how much information to give and how much to not, is that balance. I need to research that balance.
Well, yeah, no, definitely. I think that's one of the interesting things that is trying to figure out what level of abstraction, because everyone wants to stay away from the uncanny valley, where it's too real, it's too realistic. They're like, no. So it's interesting to see what the continuum actually is and try to find that sweet spot, because it's different for each game. I mean, it's interesting for each genre seems to have a different point on the continuum. So here we have another. We have a rock golem.
Yeah. Oh, I love this golem thing. I animate. Is the GIF working too, where he's all like? No.
That's the next one. But you.
Oh, okay. This is an Everlit golem, and they're some of the enemies in the game. Probably our most developed enemy right now, and they're huge. And that's one of the things that's cool about VR is the size of things. Like, when you're on a screen, you imagine the scale difference, but it's like being in a car. You look at signs and you somehow have that size relation, but you get out and the sign's huge. So it's similar, but when you're in the Oculus, you're actually looking up at this golem, and it's just coming at you. It's scary. People were. Ricky he said people's always initial reaction was to run away, and that was awesome. But
and sorry, I'm just gonna insert my little thing about the Tibetan Book of the Dead. That was our deities. The influence was they weren't supposed to run away. They were just supposed to accept. And you're right that whenever we had a wrathful deity fly down on them, they would run away, despite having done all the readings where they should have been able to extrapolate that they should just accept what's going on and and get on with their rebirth. They always ran.
Just get to a safe position to attack.
Definitely.
I love that animation. Oh, and there's the Everlit. Yep, I kind of sprang that early, I guess.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, so see how it branches off into tertiary and secondary sentences, and yeah. And their language is incorporates pictures whenever they want. They're just like a very free race in how they're not very regimented in syntax, and I'm trying to think of the word. Well, regardless, they're not. They're very organic and visceral about how they do things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's almost like Chinese writing.
Cool.
Graphic writing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. Very cool idea coming up with it.
Thanks. I was inspired by beads.
I'm sorry, Chris told me to get on mic because I said I want jewelry like it.
I'll have to do that.
I know. Ross is going, commercialization of jewelry. Okay.
Comic-Con.
I can see that. Game merchandise.
Yeah. I've done actually a little bit with pins, but I like the idea of an entire necklace now.
Now you got something. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's the translation. That's another thing I think about when you're creating languages. is you have to think about, like, even though we, like, the sh sound is an S and an H for us, but others might have made that its own character, and other sounds that are not in our language, are not in our vocabulary. But it's interesting. You have to remember that, like, ing, all those things we combine letters to make would be their own thing, possibly. Like, that's why shun, th, and ing are their own character.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. Have your own Rosetta Stone there. You have your own.
Yeah. I want to make a stone now. It's just writing and just drop it off in places.
Okay, so the next question is: you created a great interactive fiction game during the course, Strategies and Psychologies in Games, which I've never seen, by the way, but I think this is from Sherry. In class, what is your if game about?
So in the class, it's changed a little, quite a bit from the class, because I've evolved it, and now it's sound effects, and it has more of this mysterious quality that I want, and a way awesomer title than the book. City of Lost Rain, just so you know, is an anagram for fictional story.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I love. Well, there's a lot of anagrams in the story too. Like Fiona's name, Fiona Thurn, is of the rain. And they're all kind of clues too. But it's a mystery game, text based, and a lot of the gameplay is you examine objects. I want to put more of that in. Some of the clues are missing because of the computer failure, but you examine everything to levels of degree as you want, and it'll inform your decisions later. And some of those clues change depending on random variables I have programmed in, so that it's a different experience each time, and you can't just, oh, that clue, like, it'll change, which is kind of cool. But and the game is about a detective named Fiona Thurn, and she's ultimately it's about her pursuit of David Lament, this serial killer, who I've represented with this lovely purple, and I just think it matches his character so well.
Very cool.
But let's see, I like to think of it as like Lost, where you play as Jack and the smoke monster.
Oh.
Because you're kind of interacting with both David and Fiona throughout the game, so it's like you're playing the villain and the good guy. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's cool about IF. I didn't realize how like the ambiguity just really is awesome.
It is. I think you have lots of fun. You can be like, well, actually, no, it's the same person. It's just a different schizophrenic state they're in. Depends on which state
exactly.
they're in. What they get.
Oh, I wish I could tell you the ultimate ending and why, but I can't.
Yeah, that's all right.
No, don't give it away.
Don't give it away.
But it's so awesome.
We got the links, so don't worry. Yeah.
Well, this is the first 3 chapters. If it gets popular enough, I'll continue.
Very cool.
But yeah, and it's the city is like, it's kind of based off of like some of these places in England I've visited, where it's ruins, like new stuff built on top of ruins. I always thought that was fascinating, just like building on top of the past, and kind of sometimes even like desecrating it, like seeing a church turned into like a gift shop or something. But yeah, so the city is the city is a lot like that, Lost Rain, and it's got this history of a king, and I won't get into it. You can read it.
No, but very, very good teasing. Very good teaser there. So get people to read it. So very cool.
Okay,
So
so
here's some images, I guess.
here are the two. Um, so each of the main characters has their own color to kind of give them, their own. So it's also easier to like make it to have two characters having a conversation
Mm-hmm.
when they're both different colors. It just is so much nicer to then just be like, and then they said, and then they said, you know. But so Fiona, and I like Fiona and David have kind of these like opposing color schemes that kind of represent their adversarial nature.
Mm.
And Fiona's is more like she's more jovial, and I feel like that more appropriately is green. And David is dangerous, but he's he's subtle about it, and that's kind of how I feel like that color says, at least in the context.
Very cool. So the next slide is another one from the If project, character creation.
Yeah, they're not very visually exciting yet. I have this cool logo, but uh, anyway, so this is the character creator, which is, usually in character creation in games, it's all about how you look visually. But in an IF, they're going to put themselves there anyway, so you don't have to do any of that, which is kind of cool. But so I mostly did like psyche, build your psyche. So like in
Yeah.
this thing, you can either be righteous, devoted, or compassionate, and those affect various things in the game. Man, I got myself into that. It's easy to get overcomplicated with the IF because you're so much branches, and then you realize, oh, wow, that's huge, hugely complicated.
No,
But
I see this being. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the book in the movie Divergent, and I'm seeing that making choices like that. If I was doing it in a classroom and having students talk about, I would love something like that for students to have to make a decision about that and then write more about it or play through it and then have to go back and look at if they had chosen differently what would
yeah,
have
yeah.
happened. I really like these.
Thanks. I yeah they it's I want to integrate some of them more, like clever, and there's you can also be clever and bold, which actually integrates the different strategies you can take in the game. Like clever, you have to navigate a lot of different conversation options, or various options, but you have to navigate a lot of them, and a lot of the answers will lead to essentially a game over. But with bold, your actions are more about chance than you're assured with clever to get through if you choose all the right options. But with bold, you have a chance to do it. Like there's one part where one of the characters, Jacob, is climbing out of a pile of bodies, but um, if you're clever, there's two guys there, and if you're clever, you get to talk to them, and you can figure out based on their descriptions which one would be best to like either threaten or pretend to be a demon, or there's various options. But if you're bold, you basically get a chance. Well, if you picked up the knife earlier, you get a chance to toss the knife and take one of them out, and you have to choose which one. So there's still choosing going on, but there's a chance that your knife will hit, and then the story will progress from there. Like ultimately, it'd be really cool to have a game where there's no game over, so it just keeps going, like Heavy Rain.
It's a perpetual game. Very cool. So we have another one here, character clues.
Okay, yeah, this is how I used color. Like I was gonna use more differing colors, but then it started looking like a rainbow. So I just labeled sounds and then clues. Actually, something interesting I wanted to do with the clues is you see how the text is gray and the clue is white?
Mm-hmm.
I want to have varying degrees of, I guess, obviousness with the clues, because
Okay.
either it'll go from the white to the gradient down to the gray of the body text, so it's either more hidden and less visible. I think that's kind of an interesting way to make people observe. I don't know how. I haven't tested how effective that will be yet, but it's an interesting idea, right?
Well, it is. It reminds me of we actually we just I watched a show called Limitless, and one of the things they brought up was this interesting phenomenon like synthesia, where basically everything's a color to you. So sight, smells,
Mm-hmm.
smells are a color, sounds are a color, and so this actually reminds me a little bit of that type of sensing, where you're seeing different things in colors, and so that's actually kind of a really cool way for you to break it out. That you went ahead and you sort of created your own color scheme for different attributes that you wanted to draw the eye to. So that was really cool.
Thanks. Huh. I wonder what spicy color looks like. I wonder. It's probably a red, but maybe it's not even anything we can imagine as a
Hmm.
color. Maybe people like that actually have a huge spectrum of colors that
Yeah.
we don't have any idea about.
Just so Ross, by the way, I'm going to plug week 1 because we just talked about psychology of color, by the way, and I'm very proud of you for going back here. First of all, we know through sciences that the human sight is extremely limited, that there indeed exists more color than the colors that we are actually seeing right now. So scientists are actually trying to figure out if we're going to do some biohacking to our bodies and add some facilities to enhance the eye. Very near in the future, we might be able to see way more color than the colors that we can currently see right now. Okay, so that's a
Oh,
possibility. Oh, I know. Um,
oh.
The other thing that you're doing right here, you actually exemplify, even though it's in the if format, but I'm sure it's going to influence your other design, is that a lot of designers are not using color just to identify emotion, but they realize that color is an attention director.
Mm-hmm.
So you use that direct focus to direct action, just like what Chris was saying earlier. So I think that's what you're trying to do here already, even though it's in an if format, which is exciting.
Yeah, I was referencing Jamie Madigan's that article about color navigation and communication. Mirror's Edge, red stuff is where you go, right? It was the red stuff, I think.
Yes, yes. Very good.
Sorry, synesthesia is what it is. So I typed it in chat, so if any of the presenters want to look it up later.
Oh, cool.
All right, so we have a bit.ly.
Now, I only wanted to, just so we're not actually going to play it, or if we want, Chris, you can play it, but I do want to emphasize, though, maybe just at the beginning, because it is rated mature.
I didn't know how far to go.
Yeah, it's okay, but if Chris is our expert player, so we might, if Chris doesn't mind to play a little bit of it, so we can get in action. You might want to, and Chris, if you don't mind zooming in a little bit, just because
Sure.
It's a little hard to see, for our screen.
Doesn't want to work with my commands. Here we go.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, that's a little big. Okay.
Good?
Yep.
Should I explain any stuff along the way, or should I just let him have the experience?
I think you should let Chris have the experience.
Okay.
And then we'll stop at a good point, okay? Yeah.
Okay.
I just feel like we need to have that really good announcer voice going, this interactive fiction is intended for mature audiences only.
This interactive fiction is intended for a mature audience only because of some of the violent imagery described.
There you go.
I don't think that was exactly dramatic enough, but it sounded alright.
I do like the dramatic music in the background. I know it's not
There
coming
we
over.
go.
Kind of interesting. I must sign up. You want to capture my personal information.
It says optional.
Well, email, yeah, email's optional. Yeah, I'm not a robot. Apparently, I'm not alone in being not a robot. Someone speaks in the darkness, a soft but compelling voice. Each word has an undefinable lyrical quality. It falls upon you like waves of warm water. You must listen.
Should we help, Chris?
Sure, go for it.
Oh, okay. What would you have me make you? A man or a woman? Ultimately, it affects very little, but pronouns can be tiresome.
I like that line, sorry.
Who wants to switch around, huh? Kay, I'm going to make you do it.
Sure, I'll take over. Okay. Light dances along in the darkness. It blinks in and out as you watch. I am a woman. Go ahead, click on it, Chris.
Sure.
Still your turn, Kay.
Yeah, I can keep going. Female body forms beneath you. No, not forms. It was always there. The presence in the darkness smiles. You don't see it as much, feel it smile, like delicate feathers drawing across your skin in intricate spirals. It speaks.
Is this as you desire? Breasts can be rather surprising if you haven't had them before. What do you think? I am sure I wish to be a man. What do you guys think?
I've dealt with them before, so I'm good, I'm sure.
I am sure.
All right, I can cover it this time. You walk forward a little, trying to make your way through the fog to the voice. It speaks again, but this time from behind you. Do you come from wealth or poverty?
Poverty.
Yeah.
Poverty,
Yeah.
Underdog status, sorry. Entitled would feel wrong.
I was born to poverty. Ragged clothes slither around you. They have been patched many times and smell well worn. You have these clothes for ages. They have protected you from the cold and weather. You are fond of them. This will affect how people see you and treat you. Are you sure you wish to manifest as such? I am sure, or wealth better befits me. Sure?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
You turn back, determined to find the source of the voice, compelled to embrace its benevolent force. It speaks again, this time from all directions. Are you clever or bold?
I like both.
Well, you have to make a choice.
I want to be smart, but I want to be able to take chances too, you know? I want to be able to roll the dice. Okay, so someone else has to decide because I want both.
Well, let's just go with bold since Kay's pretty bold. So let's do bold. I'll read it. I favor the bold. A strength fills you, a confidence in action and thought. You make decisions and never regret their consequences. You lead the charge when cowards would flee. You are bold, but you are also reckless. In conflict, you must navigate your choices with bravery and ferocity. Your power relies on the items you obtain and your ability to utilize them. Success is likely, but not certain. You are observant, but in your fervor, can you miss clues to success? The voice pauses. Are you sure you wish to manifest as such? I am sure. I am a thinker. Let's go with sure. Let's go for sure.
That sounds extremely bold of you. You're like, yeah, sure.
Sure. Chris, your turn.
Sure. Not sure which way to turn. You gaze around, lost. Where is it? The voice booms again. Are you righteous, compassionate, or devoted?
Well, that was very passionate. Okay, so what do you think, Kay?
That's the problem. I'm not feeling any of. Is there a fourth option?
So it
No.
needs to be righteous, compassionate, devoted, and apathetic. No.
Yeah, ambivalent. I'm ambivalent. Yeah, so.
Let's go with the middle one then, since you're ambivalent. So I don't know.
So I'm ambivalent. Yeah. Okay.
Fine. Compassionate. I am compassionate. Your face softens and your passion flows. Love motivates you, directs you. It's you. You will find peace and inspire the miserable. You are the water that sustains it all. As one who is righteous, you will gain an advantage in situations involving affection. I'm afraid I can be less enigmatic than that. Wouldn't be much fun for me. Is this what motivates you? Is this how you would choose to manifest? I am sure. Perhaps righteous, but it described me, or devoted. I think we'll go with sure. Might as well.
Okay, for me, I want to look at all three options now.
Oh, now? Okay, go ahead.
Well, yeah, because I'm like, that's compassionate sounds really Care Bear, and that.
Let's go with, okay, then, yeah, whatever.
Okay,
Oh,
I am righteous. Your face brightens and your passion burns. Justice motivates you, directs you, is you. You will strike down the wicked, protect the innocent. You are the fire that feeds it all. As one who is righteous, you will gain an advantage in situations involving justice. I'm afraid I can't be less enigmatic than that. Wouldn't be much fun for me. Is this what motivates you? Is this how you would choose to manifest? It sounds better than a compassionate.
Oh, really? Jeez.
But let's go devoted too.
Chris, your turn. Chris.
Sure. I am devoted. Your face hardens and your passion stirs. Duty motivates you, directs you. It is you. You will withstand the onslaught and defend the weak. You are the rock that preserves it all. As one who is righteous, you will gain an advantage in situations involving duty. I'm afraid I can't be less enigmatic than that. Really, guy? Come on. Yeah. Wouldn't be much fun for me. Oh, so sorry for you. Yeah. Is this what motivates you? Is this how you would choose to manifest? So what is the group's decision?
I'm confused. I don't know.
Typo. Righteous should be devoted.
You know what? We revision, right, writers?
Yeah,
Revise. Okay, don't worry about it. That's what we do. So
Which one are we? Are we righteous, compassionate, or devoted?
Compassion is no good. Kay doesn't like Care Bear, so.
Well, there's one out. So are you righteous or are you devoted?
I'll go with righteous then.
Yeah.
Why is that? That sounds more bold, right? Let's do it.
Here, I'll read this part. You are whole. Well, not quite. You must discover the rest within the world. A couple things, though. I labeled clues and items as such. You may look at these without consequence, and sometimes you can pick up items as a reward. But some are too hidden for even me to find. You may choose back without worry, but there's no turning back from a continue. You already know the sound of your own voice. The sound of others will be different. Be wary when you choose to truly speak. It can have dire consequences.
You know, here's the thing. I think this might be a good stopping point, unless one.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's very intriguing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very good teaser.
If Chris, you can click on one of the words, because I do want to emphasize he does, you know. During this semester, I've told Ross he's insanely careful with detail. So if you click on, he tried to put, you know, notes on every little thing, and that really is a differentiator with, you know, whether or not and if it's successful, because even those little clicks, that's the interactivity you put into that game. So see, he's very careful, and I thought it was very smart of him to put a help menu, essentially, by embedding it in the narrative, rather than having a help menu at the very front of the game where you have to read it before you can start playing. Yeah. So I think it's great.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you hit continue, it's got just a little thing.
Okay.
I'll read it though. Yeah.
Okay.
And also, tell no one of me.
All right. Now I think this is enough of a teaser that when we shared a link with our teacher, I said they will start playing, even if it is for a mature audience. Don't share with your K-12 students maybe, but definitely try it out. Definitely try it out.
And I would say it wasn't too mature at the beginning. Even just going through the first part of it, I think our educators would be able to say, okay, so this is what interactive fiction is. This is making choices. Look, we paused and stopped and went, righteous, devoted. You're starting to get a mental image of the character you want to play. You're not just you're not just immediately choosing based on something visual or graphic. So I think that this would be very useful. Like I said, even if they can't do the mature stuff and show that in class, I think the beginning it could work very well.
Right. Definitely an experience. That's what teachers should play it. Definitely.
I know, and part of me is like going, you've been listening to City of Lost Rain by Fourth Axis. Very cool. So our sort of winding down here, so question 4. What psychological theories influenced your redesign of the IF game since its first prototype? Can you point out specific examples from the game that are influenced or redesigned based on a theory?
Okay, so I hope I used.
Remember, you can't give anything away. So
oh yes. Oh
we've
man,
really
that's gonna be
complicated it
difficult.
for you. So it's
Yeah. Okay, so Henrik Wortfeldt did a study on player immersion, specifically in reference to NPCs in video games, and he described like the ability to adapt to social circumstances is particularly engaging. So, I mean, it's rather a simple form of using that, but having a wide variety of ways to respond to an action facilitates that. And also, I wanted, and I wanted each character to have a different kind of opinion of what you are and how they'll react to you. For example, Fiona she likes humor. So things that when you interact with her in a humorous fashion or a joking fashion, you'll often get more favorable outcomes unless there's some other reason that you don't want her to find it funny or something. Like I haven't quite figured out some of those yet. But when you interact with David, he often does the opposite of what you want him to do. So it just to kind of like, so characters they'll be like, no, I don't want to do that. So that it's kind of taking away some of the control from the player, and that I think that is what's good, it makes the character more so is because they feel like they're out of their control. Sorry, I have to look at notes.
That's right.
Did I say that name Wortfeldt right? Or is it Henrik, Sherry?
Are you talking about Warthrope?
Okay, yeah, I totally...
No, that's okay. Keep going, man. That's okay.
I don't know, I like the name Wortfeldt because it sounds like something that drops off like a rogue or something. But I also used Jamie Madigan's observations about color. Oh man, I should not have... I kind of covered some of these earlier.
That's all right.
Okay.
Oh, okay. And Jesse's Shell observed that a game with multiple endings can get it takes away some of the emotional resonance because they're always looking for which was the real ending. What I'm trying to do, and the inevitability of the ending is taken away. But what I'm trying to do is make all. I mean, it's a theory that this might work, but I'm trying to find a way to make all the branches kind of inform the rest of the story. So it's like playing through again is part of the story in a way, because then you learn more about what's happening. so like, it's sort of multiple endings, but it's also sort of not. And also, certain things do change, or will change on the second playthrough, because a lot of what the player says, like their options, is I actually want to give them some of the some options that they'd actually be thinking. Like, I have no idea where that thing is, and it'll actually be saying there. But then if they play back through, it'll have another speech option there that's like, oh, I know because I did this for some reason. But
A past life, you're like, I
yeah,
know.
what it is in the story, but I can't be too.
Very nice, very nice.
But I'm also doing I mean, this is a Tolkien Golem decisions, or what I call them.
Mhm.
And those are decisions that are so they seem infinitesimal. Kill Golem, he
Mhm.
needs to go away. But in the future, it has such radical ramifications. I like that in game. Like, I want to see more of that in games where you gave an apple to the guy in the prisoner cage, and eventually he saves your life, or your romantic interest would die if you didn't do that or something.
Mhm.
I think that'd be cool. But yeah, I'm trying to integrate Golem decisions that seem like nothing, but ultimately change a lot.
Very cool. So our next question is, how did designing an if influence your game writing or game design process now? What are some advantages or disadvantages with creating if-based narratives?
I think writing an IF really actually helps me think about how to approach a game narrative. Before, I was always writing it in a movie script format because that's what I knew. But writing for an IF allows you to get all your Boolean, the false true statement things, lets you get all those sorted out and debugged, so you know. This is if you're going to make it into another game, so you know where those should be and when they should change. There's some advantages. Oh, well, there's a lot of advantage, like branching narratives, um, the ambiguity. But I would say I don't know about disadvantages, because I feel like it's very applicable to many game design, whether it's just a step in the process or the end product itself. Um, Disadvantages. Let me think about that. Sorry, I had one, but I don't like it. Well, it's like a disadvantage, but it's also not really. My disadvantage was it's easy to get carried away, and dig yourself a hole in complexity. But that's not
Yeah.
really a disadvantage.
That's what I was gonna say. It's really easy to get really complex very fast
Yeah,
if you're not really you're like, wait a minute, okay, wait a minute, can't use that plot device anymore.
yep. It's also hard to because sometimes you want to rebranch into something so that it
Yeah.
doesn't span forever. But you have to design the conversation so that each one could lead into that without having to worry about it. Oh, lot of variables, but it really helps you sort out your thinking on how you're doing it and where it's going to go.
Very cool. All right, question number 6. Will you be creating ifs as part of your future game design process?
Oh, for sure. I'm thinking of Children of Boom. Like, you basically, where the options are, put in what the player could have done, and then it makes this huge plan that's so awesome. I'm definitely gonna be using it, and is probably in all my game writing in the future. I'm gonna be trying to create an IF beforehand, unless of course something they don't want me to for some reason. But I don't know why they would do that.
Yeah, no, it was funny because when you were saying that, I'm like going, oh yeah, it kind of reminded me of Dragon's Lair. Whenever you watch the animated series, where once Dirk made his decision, you saw what happened if he picked the other doors.
But yeah,
Very cool.
I'm gonna use it.
And we have a trailer.
Oh, yes.
We can't play it, but certainly I just want to have a nice mention of it. And we did post, thanks to Kay, posting the video trailer on our Google Hangout.
Oh, cool.
On our Google Plus, actually, on Google Plus, and also on our webpage. So certainly if you guys are interested in looking at the full scale, the trailer is quite interesting. We can't play it here, but certainly, you have the link to look at.
Thank you for doing that. Oh, yeah. And then there's us playing or showing it off at Comic-Con. Uh-oh. Oh, no, it didn't freeze. Or did it freeze? No, I saw Sherry blink. There yeah. I thought it froze because everyone was holding still.
No, we were looking. Okay. I don't see you in this image, right? I see Ricky. But
yeah. None of us are all in the same image. That's why it gave you like one of each.
Yeah.
That or people are checking out the cosplay. They're like, "What's going on over there?"
Yeah.
I think this was one of the gamers that just held his head forward, but.
Well, I would say I wanted to let you know that there's this educational conference coming to Denver in the end of June, and if you would like to come, we'd love to put you and your game somewhere where you would be mauled by a bunch of teachers who want to know.
I would love to do that. I'm sure the rest of us would too.
We can get you a guest pass. They put us in things called playgrounds. So we would put you on a table in the playground. We don't usually get the best playground, but we can see if we can talk to our friends over in the mobile learning playground, and maybe we can get you a better spot. But
I think we would love to do that if you in the future.
And besides, since it's coming to Denver, we could say local indie game developers.
Oh, that's true. Where's the question and comment? Is there somewhere I'm supposed to be seeing questions?
No, that's okay. I think here's the thing: we find we don't get a lot of questions when you astound people. Okay. I mean, if you had Minecraft, they'd be asking questions because they know Minecraft. This is while it's not like you had to give them a vocabulary list before they could watch this or anything. But this is different. This is different, and I will tell you, you're gonna have a bunch of educators pouring over this Hangout and taking out little pieces.
So I definitely want to thank Ross for coming on our webinar.
You're very welcome.
That was great, and because he's very good at conversations, we went over the hour, but...
Well, that's nothing new for us.
Yeah, nothing new for us. So
yeah, it was a suggestion, and we never stick to it.
Yeah, whatever. But certainly I think we have a consensus. We might grab Ross for other things. So anyway... thanks again for joining in our webinar, and Rasagu, what would you like to say?
Wait, what?
Anything else you guys would like to say?
Oh, thank you very much for having me on. This was fun.
No, thank you for coming, and it really will help teachers get an idea of when their students say when they grow up they want to design games, what they can talk to them about. I mean, you gave us such a breath that like the English and language teachers are going to be cheering because they're going to be cool. Yes. Okay, so we'll end it right here, and on behalf of the ISTE Games and Simulation Network and Inevitable Instructors, thank you very much. Bye, everybody.